Whose universities are universities? Whose universities are universities? Whose universities are universities?
Our Pope is a person who resegregated our schools and passed Amendment 1 with a bunch of corporate money by funneling it into the state legislature, and we're really mad about his policies. And now he's moved to a committee that's in control of 16 of our public school universities, and he's very much for privatization, increased tuition, increased fees, decreased academic rights. He's essentially trying to privatize our public education system, and we are here as students trying to demonstrate against it.
Yeah, we've got a petition going on. It says, because we believe our public education is on the line, because we want a university that welcomes and supports future generations of North Carolinians, regardless of their socioeconomic status, and because we want to uplift the voices of those who make our education possible, we are coming together to take a stand. The North Carolina Student Power Union is building a movement to transform the current system into one where our universities and democratic institutions run by those who make them work. We are students, workers, faculty, and community members all across the state mobilizing to ensure that universities within the UNC system become accessible to all North Carolinians, particularly working-class students and students of color. So we've got 3 items on the petition that we're pretty much going for, and those would be that we demand a voice in the decision-making processes that affect us. We call upon the UNC system to reconsider the process in which the advisory committee will be creating the 5-year plan. We ask that they follow the model that UNC Tomorrow had, taking a year to get input from the people of North Carolina in town hall meetings, and the meetings have a 2-hour public forum for students, and that meetings rotate location around the state so that students from all over can provide input. We demand that Art Pope, number 2, we demand that Art Pope be removed from the advisory committee and that a fully representative committee, free of private corporate interests, with meaningful student, worker, and community leadership is created. The current members of the UNC advisory committee and strategic decisions are overwhelmingly white men. This does not adequately reflect the diverse demographics of our schools and state. Pope has notably funded a variety of regressive initiatives, including the racial resegregation of Wake County public schools. Through the Pope Foundation, Pope has a proven track record of working to privatize education. This is number 3. We demand that the state of North Carolina lives up to its constitutional promise to maintain education as free as practicable. The Board of Governors must reinstate the 25% minimum of tuition revenues UNC school systems must set aside to fund need-based financial aid. So this is a petition we have. We've also got it online. I posted it before on the Twitter feed, and we've posted it before on the Facebook, so it's on both pages. So sign the petition, help us get Art Pope and corporate interests out of our school, as well as help us have a say in what we're trying to do here in our future.
Well, I strongly support public education and support the university educators as well. If you got any suggestions for higher education, or got any questions for me, I'd be glad to answer. I got going to lunch in a few minutes. I'll be glad to come back out afterwards.
Who's organizing this?
I don't know. Hi,
Yes.
Art Pope. Cameron, nice to meet you. Any thoughts, any questions?
Okay, will you get a picture with me?
Sure, absolutely.
Here, please take a picture with me. Do you know how to...
Yeah. What's your name?
Doug Rosenberg.
Doug Art Pope.
Nice to meet you. Thank you.
Anything I can help you with, or questions?
Well, I think that market forces are not the best way to guide public education decisions. So.
I agree. I think public education is a constitutional mandate important to all our citizens.
Yeah.
That's why I work long and hard to improve public education.
Yeah, well, it's the privatizing, putting our public schools, taking away the control of the locally elected school board and putting them
I
under
strongly support local control. When I was in the state legislature, most of the school decisions were dictated by the legislature and the state board. That's why I advocate local control and flexibility in the school board law ordinance that we've written on.
Well, good. Well, so how do you feel about these charter schools that we have all throughout North Carolina, particularly in my county of Durham, where the local school board has absolutely no authority, even though the charters are taking taxpayer dollars.
Charter schools are public schools. That's why we receive less tax money than traditional district public schools.
Per student.
No one type of education fits all the needs of diverse students we have, diverse communities have. That's why public school. Oh no, that's why you can look at the results of the old basic education plan, which is one size fits all.
Well, no, I mean, we'll have magnet schools, we have different kinds of
And magnet schools are really a variation of charter schools. That's why I've been a strong supporter of magnet schools.
Well, but the problem with
you
the
have people
charter...
like Howard Lee, former Democrat state senator, former chairman of the Board of Education, started a charter school in Chapel Hill, where there is a need for the Chapel Hill school system right there. So why would you want to prohibit Howard Lee from opening up a charter school and for parents to choose and send their kids to that charter school?
Well, because I support local control, same as you, and these charter schools don't have any kind of control. They do receive taxpayer dollars, but they have no financial accountability to the entity where they receive money.
You go from the state level to the local district level. Local district level, literally to the school building. The local controls and the board of directors of that charter school, which usually consists of parents, and they're accountable to the same standards of the district schools, and they're accountable to the state when they have their charter revoked to do anything wrong with it.
Right, but the board for those charters are not elected usually. They're often appointed, so they're not duly elected. And because they're receiving public funds and they're not having to be transparent about the way they're spending money or the rates of attrition when they're sending students back to public education, there's no transparency or accountability that they're using taxpayer dollars and no level.
They're receiving taxpayer dollars from the public schools, and they're accountable to the state and these public standards.
But they're not accountable to the local.
We disagree.
Oh, wait, let's
Okay, we respectfully disagree on public charter schools.
Yes.
How supporting public charter schools in addition to supporting traditional public schools means against public education.
Well, I don't say that we should not support our charter schools. I believe that we should. Well, yeah, I believe we should support local control of by the locally elected board. So, I mean, I'd like to see our charters placed under the purview and authority of the locally elected school board in terms of financial accountability, attrition rates, and also diversity.
And there we disagree because then they're no longer charter schools.
I'm Brian. Hey, Brian. So you talk a lot about local control and all this stuff. So why do you spend all this money to get control on people that you support? If it's really local control, then let us have control. Let the students have control. Let the faculty have control. Why do you feel the need to control everything?
I don't feel the need to control everything, and I haven't spent money on taking.
You spend money on school board, though. You spend money in the NC legislature. I mean, if it's local control, let the local people decide.
A gentleman named Bob Page, a Democrat, has replaced one of them that's spent more money supporting Democrats.
I don't care about. I don't want to talk about Democrats or Republicans. I'm just talking about. You say you're for local control. Let local people control what's going on.
The voters do control.
I don't think we really have much of a choice when people, like yourself and your organizations spend who knows how much money because it's not public. Funding these.
I spent on elections of this public, it's all duly reported.
I mean, I'm sure you spend in PACs and stuff like that. This money is not tracked.
No, the money I gave candidates reported. The money I gave the independent expenditure efforts reported. The money that the Pope Foundation spends is reported. The D. Smith Reynolds Foundation, which is a liberal progressive foundation, twice as large as the Pope Foundation, spends more money than we. They're good, we're bad. I understand your perspective. But they spend more money than the Pope Foundation does. Bob Page, a Democrat,
I don't want to talk about their money. I don't want to talk about their money. I want to talk about your money. And we're concerned about that you being on this school board and some of the things you've advocated for the past in the NC legislature, in the Wake County School Board. It can't happen for us students.
Thank you for mentioning the legislature. I have an 8-year term, 4 terms, 8 years of legislature. Name one vote I ever made, one amendment I ever filed, one bill I ever filed that hurt public education.
I'm talking about where your money is connected to, and the people that you're supporting with your money, and the policies they're creating, and we can't have it.
Give me an example. The groups I support improving public education.
No, budget cuts is supporting education. Removing the financial aid for it.
I'm going to have to go in a minute, and I'll come back after lunch. Y'all still here.
Why are you making education unaffordable?
I'm not making education. As a legislator, I supported decreasing. I opposed increases in legislative tuition grants. And tuition. The legislature passed tuition increases that I voted against as a legislator, keeping the cost of tuition down lower. Under the state budget, from 2006, let me get my dates right. under Beverly Perdue and the Democrat majority in the legislature
It's
from
not just
2009
tuition that makes
to
education
2010.
unaffordable. You're making financial
they
aid
cut more
unavailable.
money. No, I'm not doing anything. I've given money to the public university to help public education. I have provided
And
help
where
fund
you
scholarships
choose for it to
students.
fund them.
Pardon?
And where you choose for it to fund, didn't one of your organizations
We
state
have
that
people who are paid to go.
We work with the North Carolina Student Power Union, and we want we're going to ask you to resign from this board. And if you really care about because we want control.
You have conflicting interests.
Student participation in our education.
I'm all for
All right, so
Well, then can we be appointed
please
to the board rather
can you
than
please
You got to
resign?
ask Dr. Tom. You got to ask Tom Ross, the president. I didn't ask to be on.
You can still resign.
We were locked out of the meeting last year during the tuition hikes. Unfortunately, we weren't able to be in that discussion, and as much as we would love
And last year,
representation,
that board of governors had a majority of appointees, Democrats, I think. I had nothing to do with that.
well, I guess what I'm saying, we've been
You have nothing to do with it, and please resign from this board. We
Why
really
should
appreciate that.
I'm doing this as a service. I have a long history of service to the state. I've been asked to do this by Tom Ross, the former president of the Reynolds Foundation, by the way. There are Democrats on the board, like Janet Cowan, elected Democrat, state treasurer, very common Democrat donors as well.
You have an
Very
equally
well-funded
organizations that want to. You have an equally long and well-documented history of funding organizations that want to dismantle public education, that want to get rid of multicultural centers on campuses.
If y'all were here after lunch today,
Yeah, we really do. I got to take it.
If you want to talk to me. Did he?
what time will that be?
A good friend of mine did think about it.
Hey, hey! Ho, ho! Our Pope has got to go! Hey, hey! Ho, ho! Our Pope has got to go! Hey, hey! Ho, ho! Our Pope has got to go!
UNC students, I mean,
NC
UNC, NC State,
UNC system.
and also community members.
It's the entire statewide
members
system.
that are concerned with the public education in general. So. Were you just walking around here? Oh, you are? All right, great. What's your name? Jane. Jane. President of the Pope Center. Oh, okay, great. Yeah, well, it's a stream, so it's recording, so. It's recording, it's a stream. So. No, it's recording. I'm an NC State student, so, yeah. If you would like to talk to Art Pope himself and ask him some questions, especially about public education and UNC school system, come by at 1 p.m. today. We're at Doubletree on Hillsborough Street. It is at the corner of Cox, where Cox and Woodburn split on Hillsborough Street right here.
Thanks.
Explaining this.
We like the fact that we have a public education. We want to keep it that way, and rather than privatize all of our schools, we want to fight for it. So we're demonstrating here, and it turns out that Art Pope just came out of this building where they're holding a closed-door meeting.
Y'all doing a good job.
Thank you.
Are you locked getting in?
I could not get in the hotel, but the Civitas guy came out and said they have another half hour to go downstairs. I don't know whether that's accurate or not. I reminded him that Pope said he would come out and talk to y'all, and he didn't know anything about that.
Be like
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11 police, and how many of us are there here? 12. So 11 police and 12,
so
12 students. There are 12 people here, yep.
I'd like to, I guess this is the state reinforcing the private interests of the Civitas Center.
That's fitting.
So I think in case people are confused as to where Pope and his dollars via the Pope Foundation for Higher Education, where those go and what issues they support, it's actually listed quite clearly on their website. So I'm going to quote some from the website. Under campus culture, the Pope Center opposes the rise of speech codes, sexual harassment codes, sustainability doctrines, residential life programs to inflict guilt, etc. So I'm curious as to what they mean by guilt, and the fact that they are taking a public stance against sexual harassment codes and sustainability doctrines. At the end of the issues section of their website, it says that the combination of rising tuition and the expansion of college debt fueled by the federal government and the mantra of college for all may be building to a crisis as more and more students enter the workforce with heavy student loans. So there you have the Pope Foundation going very firmly against this mantra of college for all, which we all think is integral to the UNC system as it stands. In our Constitution, it says that public education should be as free as practicable. We want college for all. And so this idea that it's actually federal aid and this mantra that's rising our cost of education, we would dispute that. And also it talks about the politicization on our college campuses, which I find very interesting because John Pope actually makes a point to fund a lot of political campaigns, and the General Assembly, many of the conservatives on the General Assembly that he helped elect then appoint the Board of Governors, which sets our education policy. So if you don't want the politicization of our schools, stop funding conservative campaigns that then sit on the boards to change our schools and politicize them. So those are a few of our critiques.
I just want to point out that he had agreed, Mr. Pope, to meet with us after the meeting, and they kept telling us the meeting wasn't over, but we just saw Mr. Pope drive away in his BMW, so he actually left, and they didn't meet with us like he said he would.